everybody. Jason Sherman here, director of Before the Moon documentary. And today joining me is Milt Heflin. He's a former NASA flight director and associate director at Johnson Space Center. From the Apollo recoveries to the Hubble repair, Milt helped guide some of NASA's most defining missions. And welcome to the show here. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, great. Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking about that stuff. Was a lot of fun too, by the way.
I bet it was. And, you know, one of the first things I like asking people before they tell me any stories is really, what was the moment in your life when you fell in love with space and you wanted to work for NASA?
Gosh, a good friend of mine at spring break, our seniors year in college, came down to Houston to visit his sister. And at that time, the Manned Spacecraft Center was making it pretty obvious they were looking for people. And he went just to visit and signed some stuff and came back, and they offered him a job. I was already going to go to Oklahoma State University to work on my master's. I was already going to go do that, but he said they're looking for people. So I simply followed what he did, went down, and here I am.
That's awesome. And those early days when you first got there after university, after your college, do you remember what the behind the scenes culture was like for the engineers, like the kind of people who made things work?
Well, there was NASA people and contractors and military. And I think folks who were wanting to come to work for NASA or help NASA, it was something that they really looked at to do. They wanted to. You know, it was a cool thing to do. And so I had the experience of dealing with all folks outside of the government, outside of the business. And I mean, they simply wanted to help and do what was the right thing. And it's a wonderful time and wonderful place to work during those periods.
Yeah. And most people, when they think of NASA, they think of astronauts and, you know, rocket launches, but the success was really depending on like the day-to-day operations inside mission control. What was that like?
Well, the mission control, of course, you're familiar with the scene in mission control. People there, what you see is a very small group, because there are people in the back rooms supporting the folks in the front room. And then in the same building was a conference room where all the engineers associated with the hardware and software were just down the hall from us. And then besides that, all the folks that supported them all around the United States were tuned in. So wow. All that was going on. And it was the whole team had the idea, we're doing a good thing, and I want to do this and get it done. You can do it well.
Wow, you got a couple of astronauts floating in space, and you got thousands of people down in those back rooms making sure they stay alive. But sometimes things might have went wrong. So what was the problem solving like between being structured? Was it creative? Was it chaotic? Or all of the above?
Well, to prepare for a mission, any mission at any time, we would go through the mission timeline and work and look at what might go wrong. What kind of things shall we be prepared to do? And that was done by civil service, by contractors, by military, who supported us as well. I mean, they all had the idea of this is what we're doing. They understood as best as they could how it should work. But what if this happens? And what if that happens? And so we spent a lot of time with just that to prepare some actions we might take if this situation did happen. And we had it documented and ready to go.
Yeah, you keep mentioning contractors a lot. You know, in the film, we're going to be featuring the contractors a lot. And NASA has always depended on not only contractors, but also universities and private companies. How did that collaboration work? Was it difficult, or tell me about it a little bit?
No matter what badge you wore, it was the same team, period. I mean, I just never thought anything otherwise than here is this guy or lady or whatever who knows her or his job real well. And if I'm running something, I'm in control of being in charge of something or whatever, I would always look to the folks that I knew. They knew what the hell they were doing and had to help us get through what we had to do.
Yeah. And these contractors were developing hardware, computers, life support systems. They were designing all this stuff. Was there a moment that you can remember where an outside contractor had to solve a problem that maybe changed the way NASA worked?
Uh, Gosh, no, nothing stands out that fit that. But there certainly were hiccups along the way, but the process of identifying what the hiccup was and what to do was just pretty much automatic. So I'm thinking, have I ever been in a really, really strange situation? The only time I was in a really, really strange situation was when a joke was played on me in Mission Control.
I hear a lot of that going around. apparently, Gene Kranz and a lot of other people were jokesters
Yeah,
sometimes.
yes, I got sucked in one time, big time.
Yeah,
And
well, tell me about it. How did it go?
well, in fact, I'll tell you what. So, being a mission control, front room, back room, flight director, or whatever, this was the worst 3 or 4 hours I ever spent in mission control. It was during Thanksgiving, and I was a flight director, and we were coming. It was at night. Crew was asleep, and this is going to be a longer answer you might want, but it was. Spacecraft would be coming across the USA, and we get the crews asleep or whatever. And we went lost a signal, so I had to go to the bathroom. And so I got up, and as I was walking out, one of the flight controllers said, "Hey, Milt, look up on the we got where the spacecraft is, and we got it up on the map, and you can see what it looks like or whatever." I said, "I don't want to see the damn thing," because they had just to warn me about a situation of that another object in space was going to be coming real close to us, and we usually get a notification about that to not worry about it. But we didn't get a notification, and I was really unhappy with the military who was supposed to talk to us or whatever. So I stormed out the door, got to the bathroom. When I came back, well, what they had done is that they had taken and made a caricature of a turkey on the map, going across the USA during a pass or whatever. It was just a turkey. And I never looked at it going out. I said, "Hey, Mill, look at that. And I don't want to see the damn thing." Walked out of the room. So when I came back and they said, "Oh," they pulled me aside and said, "Well, we're sorry, sir. Well, by." So I'll try to shorten this for you. One of the gentlemen who supports the program in his position in the back room woke up the manager of that program at about 3 o'clock in the morning and told him that we didn't get noticed about an object in space and we were going to come close to it. Now my problem was a different one. And so after the shift, went home, got 2 hours sleep, got no typewriter out on a desk, typed up a note, and was standing there ready whenever the program manager came in the room to show him what had happened. And he had trouble not laughing as I told him the story where I got sucked into this thing. But
my Lord.
I'm telling you,
quite a Thanksgiving.
20-some flights as a flight director, that was the worst 2 or 3 hours I have ever been associated with during that time.
Oh man. Well, so that's a turkey of a problem there. And, but there had to be some successes that you guys had when there was a successful mission, or how did you actually measure success when the world was watching the astronauts, but you guys were on the ground? How did you measure success?
Well, it's pretty simple. If we accomplished the mission, got done what we had to get done, and it worked fine or whatever, I mean, that's a great satisfaction to have that. I mean, well, when we go out somewhere and have, after a mission or something, show up in some bar or somewhere to celebrate, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly we did that. It was, and some more stories, I guess, the backroom things that happened and that sort of thing. But no, we were so much connected to this whole team together. It was very easy to problems or successes or whatever. We were all together to get done what had to be done, either to fix something or celebrate something.
Yeah. And your early work was with Apollo recovery teams.
Yes,
Did that later shape the way that you led people in mission control? Was there like a correlation there?
I think, I consider myself, I had never been in the military. I came right out of college, worked for NASA or whatever. One of the best experiences I ever had was from 1966 to the end of the Apollo program with flying with the Russians at that time in that mission. And we and so what was your specific question? Here's one of my times I'm having a little bit of trouble. What was the question?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, you worked with Apollo recovery teams, but then
Yeah.
later you were like leading people in mission control. And I'm wondering if there was like a way that they correlated together or if
Well,
was there?
yeah, since I feel blessed to have been around so many people in the military during my first 6 or 7 years. I mean, that was, I'm serious. I met so many people that were so into getting the job done and doing what we had to do, and in a way that was sometimes a lot of times it was a joy. It was fun. It was deciding what to do and solving the problem, and uh, badges and whatever you're wearing or whatever didn't mean a damn thing.
Yeah.
Everybody was just trying to get the same thing done.
I mean, one of the things people remember, I mean, I certainly remember it as a kid, was the Hubble repair mission, right? Everybody,
Yes.
the mirror was the wrong mirror, or or what? It was such a nightmare situation. But you guys had to prepare a team that was going to pull something off that might not even be possible. We weren't sure if it was going to work or not. So, how did you prepare for that?
Well, unfortunately, I was the lead flight director for that mission, and that's the highlight of my career. I consider of all the things I've done, and I started working that probably 2 years before we even flew the mission. It was, I mean, you talk about a bunch of people. Failure was not going to be an option, by golly. I mean, everybody, you've heard that, and everybody had that idea that we're going to get that done. If we're going to send humans to Mars someday, probably you're going to have to go to the moon and figure out how you're going to build the stuff you're going to all the way to Mars or whatever. But I'm embarrassed to say I do not understand where we are with this right now, and I'm disconnected to it, of course, and whatever I read and see. So I just don't. Bad answer. I just don't
Yeah,
know.
I got you.
Okay.
Well, so as we close out, why is it important to preserve and tell the stories of the people behind the scenes, the engineers, the scientists, the technicians, the contractors? I mean, we always hear the stories of the astronauts, but why is it important to preserve your story and other stories like yours?
It worked. What my generation or time there or whatever, how it was being done, it worked. I mean, and there was, except for the accidents, of course. I mean, it was a steady thing, and so if we're going to do something, whatever it is we're going to do, we need to decide what we're going to do, and have to decide how we're going to do it, and then we just need to go do it.
Yeah.
And that's, but we're in a world today. I'm afraid that attention span and all the noise and racket and stuff going on just gets in the way of everything we do, and that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. But, at the same time, there's a lot of kids out there who are studying a lot of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And maybe they want to be an astronaut. Maybe they want to be an engineer. Maybe they're really good at solving math problems. So how do we make sure that the next generation understands and realizes that it's not all about, space exploration isn't all about being an astronaut, right?
Sure.
There's
Sure.
thousands of problem solvers on the ground who make it possible. How do we make sure that they understand that?
I think we make them, the way to make them understand it is to decide what we're going to do and go do it. It's as simple as that. I mean, we're still in a rough period here where every month it seems like something associated with human space flight is up in the air again. You know, you don't know what's happening. Well, I'm a student or whatever. I'm not too sure. I mean, what's going on here? Is this something that I can depend on if I decide to join it and do it? I don't get that feeling right now, but I'm still too much maybe disconnected. But just what I hear and see, it's like, back in my day, my gosh, it was, boy, you, you almost, you couldn't wait to get back to work the next day and do what you're doing. But yeah, that's not that way it is today.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, this was awesome, Milt. Thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it. And if there's anything you want to say to everyone before we go, you can kind of leave a closing statement about how you feel about your work at NASA, maybe what you want people to know about your career, and anything that you want to leave to people to remember.
Well, I wish they could go through what I experienced during the time I started and was in the business, because there was always a challenge in front of us all the time, even after the accidents and so forth. I mean, it was always there. I don't get the sense, I mentioned I don't get the sense today that steadiness of doing this, and if I get into it, it will still be around 5 years from now. I don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
Somehow we gotta get that.
All
get
right.
that back.
Well said. Well, thanks, Milt. I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will see you guys in the next episode.